I was a grinder. I always felt like if I had a gift, I like to call it extraordinary average. It was that I could outwork you. Well, probably about 7 to 8 years into the business, I couldn't get off the floor literally one morning. My body shut down, my brain shut down. I had three young children, a wife, and it really got me to a point where it scared me. It made me really face I'm a human being, and only humans, and they're all different, can only handle so much. And I thought I could keep filling that cup and filling that cup and filling that.
Welcome to Magic in the Moment, Mindfulness in Real Time. My name is Clayton Platt, and I'll be your host for this podcast journey. Now, for many people, practicing mindfulness has very little to do with sitting on a cushion, lighting incense, or even focusing on their breath. Just paying attention to what they're doing at any moment and doing this intentionally can create that same magic. Our time together is intended to share how mindfulness plays out in everyday life for our guests. Now, before we begin, here's a word from our sponsor, Meditation for Leadership. We all feel it, the pressure to keep up, to perform, to push through. But lasting success doesn't come from speeding up. It comes from slowing down, leaning in, and creating the space to lead from within. That space is where we shift from autopilot to intention, building mindful habits that strengthen focus and calm. It's where we stay connected to our values and purpose, choosing to respond instead of react. It's where we unlock our potential to positively shape our own lives and empower others to grow and thrive. That's the work of Meditation for Leadership. If you're ready to create the space for sustainable success, visit meditationforleadership.org. So today I'm really pleased to welcome Ed DeAngelis. Ed occupies a space where humanity meets hard hats, where psychological safety meets physical safety. As founder and CEO of EDA Contractor, he built a 450-person company that's been recognized 6 consecutive years as a Philadelphia top workplace by proving that humanity as a strategy isn't just good for people, it's good for business. In an industry where mental health challenges run high and workers are often taught to suppress emotion, Ed is pioneering conversations about psychological safety on construction sites. He's a daily meditator, leading teams through some of the most demanding work in our economy. And his core belief is that he works for his employees, not the other way around. In an industry built on hierarchy and toughness, that's not just different, it's transformative. Ed, welcome to Magic in the Moment.
Clayton, thank you for having me in that wonderful intro. I really appreciate the kind word. So I'm excited to be here to speak with you.
Well, I have done some research on you, and I am thrilled to have you here. I think there's so much that we can talk about. And I mentioned humanity as a strategy in the intro, and I think that's a great place to start. Tell me a little bit, what does humanity as a strategy mean, and how did it sort of develop for you as a business leader?
You know, humanity as a strategy really just takes two words and kind of mashes them together to really start to think about what is the most important asset we have in business? What is the thing that the most critical that we talk about? And it's people. And people are all different, but they all have humanity. And it's something that is really important. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a leader, can I recognize someone's can I care about their humanity? You can, but it's going to take a strategy. You're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to plan it. You're going to have to really dig down deep to see, how do I connect? I can talk about humanity. I can talk about strategy, but how do I make it humanity as a strategy? And really where it came from was, I want to keep us getting better. I want our business to be better. I want all businesses to be better. And I think in a construction industry, as your opening said, where it's really not spoken about, it's about tools, it's about hammer, nail. I wanted to introduce that and see how we could make the experience at working at EDA much more fulfilling for the human being.
Mm. That makes a lot of sense. But I guess what now is arising for me is
Yeah.
as a question is how did this, how did this come into your life? So, I mean, that makes an awful lot of sense from a core strategy, but how did that kind of become important to you? And then as you've introduced this into the company, and again, in an environment which is not necessarily usually receptive to these concepts, how has it been received?
I would say that the moment that really changed me was I was a grinder. I always felt like if I had a gift, I like to call it extraordinary average. It was that I could outwork you. Well, probably about 7 to 8 years into the business, I couldn't get off the floor literally one morning. My body shut down, my brain shut down. I was just I had 3 young children, a wife, and it really got me to a point where it scared me. It made me really face I'm a human being, and only humans, and they're all different, can only handle so much, and I thought I could keep filling that cup and filling that cup and filling that, and we were successful. So then it took me on a journey of reading and educating myself because I was afraid to lose the business
Hmm.
because it was a fear that I was in that if I don't work that hard, the business may not make it. Because that's your when you're an entrepreneur and you start a business, you're starting off with everyone says businesses will fail in the first 5 years. You'll so for me, it took me on a journey of learning. And I would say by a couple years after that, it really started to be like, you know what? The most important, if the most important person on a plane before you take care of your children is you, that you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself. If I'm going to do that for me, how am I going to make that happen within my company? And I will tell you that it looked like I had 6 heads when I started talking about it in the beginning. It was so foreign, it made no sense to anybody, but I had a real long journey of educating myself through books, through learning about companies who were doing it a little bit differently and were not creating it to be so I call it hammer nail because we're in construction, hammer nail situation. And introducing it to the construction industry has been a journey. But I will tell you that if you give people a chance to understand it, if you allow them to breathe and let their mind take in what you're talking about, the response has been amazing. It's been standoffish in the beginning. It took a little bit, but I will tell you that it has been well received. It's been a tremendous benefit to our business. And honestly, it's also selfishly been a tremendous benefit to my own mental health and my own comfort in who I am and not believing that it isn't just always about how hard you work, which I do think is still very important. I'm still a grinder by heart, but there's also a balance. And that's where I have to have a strategy, and humanity is that strategy because I think that can really be of great benefit to everyone.
Yeah. So focusing on first that personal element that you mentioned, and that the image of the when the oxygen mask comes down, and I use this a lot, so I really appreciate you're using it, that self-care, right? So that's the first thing that the flight attendants say when they're going through their pre-flight orientation instructions, like when the oxygen mask comes down, if you're traveling with other people, especially small children, put it on you first, right? Because the whole
Right.
thing is, if you're traveling with small children and you think you're going to help them and you pass out,
Mm.
right? So taking care of yourself in light of the fact, as you described as described yourself as a grinder, right? And I can
Yes.
appreciate that, right? And it's like, okay, I need to be resilient. but how do I show up day after day, moment after moment? If my personal resources are drained, I need to take care of myself and have that balance. So I appreciate that. And so you introduced that as a concept in your company, and as you mentioned, front there was some resistance, and that's hey, I think that's really natural. What do you think kind of turned the tide for your typical employee to start, if not immediately embracing it, being more open to it?
I really believe, number one, if you tell a vulnerable story about your own experience, you tend to connect with people. People are afraid to be vulnerable with others, but there's nothing more, I don't want to call it courageous for myself, but nothing feels good better if you can sit in front of someone and say, look, I have fear, I have weakness, I need help. And that was the first part of the journey. But the second part was educating them on something simple as breathing. Something as simple as if you can slow your mind down, when I speak about these things, it'll penetrate your brain and it'll get to the cortex. And, we actually did discuss with our teams how the brain works, the hippocampus, where your fight and flight, so they can really understand it. And I must tell you, they just started. They're not. People aren't dumb. There's no reason just because someone's a construction worker means that they don't have this massive amount of experience of life and intelligence and humanity. So all you're doing is just trying to break down some walls. And we felt like one of the best ways to do it was to be vulnerable, to give them some tools to kind of educate themselves on how they could slow their brain down. And then also understand, why does my brain do that? Why am I reacting that way? And that immediately started to then go, okay, oh yeah, I know what that feels like. Oh, I do feel the hair on my neck start to go. So I do feel the ramp up. Oh, but I thought that was good. Yeah, if we're fighting a lion, but we're not fighting a lion every day.
Yeah.
So it was a tremendous, I think it was education. There was vulnerability in education and giving them an opportunity to let them understand and treating them like, because they would say, like, look, man, I'm a construction worker. Like, I don't really, this stuff is beyond me. And then once you told them it's not, you're smart. You can do this. It's been great.
I think that sense of a couple things, not assuming that because someone's working in a blue collar industry that they don't have basic intelligence. They sure do. And
Right.
many times a lot smarter about so many things in life than those of us. And I'll own my privilege, right? Just as an aside, I took a year before I went to college and I
Uh-huh.
worked in a factory to help raise money for college. And
Wow.
the 3 summers between uh, semesters or years in college, I worked in factories. And that was one of the greatest educations for me because what it taught me was I wasn't nearly as smart as I thought I was. And the people that I was working with had an incredible understanding about life. And I learned from them in so many respects. So I want to share that right there. The other thing is this, that whole sense of explaining, right? So what is it? What is actually being served if we're slowing down our breathing? Why does that work? And explaining to people, it's like, okay, well, when your brain goes into fight or flight, right? Um, you've got uh, the protection mechanism working that help to survive the savannah. But as you said, it's like we're not basically running away from lions or tigers right now. So
Right.
now we're dealing with social threats typically, or it can be a physical threat,
Oh,
right?
sure.
But understanding that our ability to make decisions and choices when our brain is in that cycle of emotional threat, we don't have that capacity. We need to slow that down so that we can, in essence, see reality and say, okay, oh, this is what's needed here. So sometimes we have to make a quick decision, right?
Right.
Sometimes it is life savings. and understanding the difference between that and when it's like, wait a minute, my reaction to a coworker about
Right.
what tool I should be using, that's not life-saving, right? So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I think you, Clayton, you hit on it. It was kind of an opportunity to talk about emotional intelligence, and that is really something that you could speak to someone and say, okay, you maybe didn't go to Harvard, you didn't go to, these great universities like I didn't, but I'm going to help you be really intelligent about something that will not only help you be a better worker, it'll help you be a better human, a better mother, a better father, a better brother, a better sister. It can impact yourself. So if we can help you that way, it'll help our business. We can do, I have a say, we can walk and chew gum. So if we could do something that can help the person, and then that helps our business, but it also helps them. Haven't we both won? Isn't that the true win-win? So learning about emotional intelligence and understanding social awareness and understanding your own awareness and just really being present in what you're dealing with. And everybody has a different experience. Diversity of life is what you were speaking to, Clayton. You were saying, look, my 1 year to go into that factory gave me intelligence, gave me tremendous value of diversity so I could understand this and I could be better to help each other. They're helping me, I help them. It truly is a win-win. I love that story because that's what we have to do. We have to either step up to where we need to learn more or step, I don't want to say down, step to a different level so we can understand more. It's no different, up, down, in between. The only thing we can't do as human beings is stay on the same level. We should be looking to a growth mindset. We should have a growth mindset in our life. And if I can learn something on that factory floor, then I've achieved what I believe is going to be a better life because I'm always looking to be better.
Mm. Well, thank you for reinforcing sort of, and I appreciate that. I haven't thought about that for a long time. So it's been fun to kind of all of a sudden have that memory come back. And you mentioned the growth mindset. And I think that just to make sure that people sort of understand, a lot of people now in these days do kind of get that, what the definition of the growth mindset is. But just in case this is helpful, the Carol Dweck, the Stanford professor, psychologist, did research on different mindsets and realized that there's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And the
Yes.
fixed mindset is, you're born with certain gifts. What you see is what you get. And, you're typically comparing yourself to other people because they seem to be doing things better. And it's like, okay, good for you. Go for it. Boom. Whereas the growth mindset says, well, you got some gifts, but you can always add to them. And it's more important to see growth in yourself versus comparing yourself to other people. Right. So, and
Amen.
that, and knowing how that shows up, for example, again, on the factory floor, on a construction site, it's like, what, what do I need to add to my skill set here to make me more effective? And it could be a physical skill, or it could be that mental skill, right? That ability to say, how can I be more present for the people around me? To kind of notice like, oh, this is how I can support my coworker here. They're struggling with something. It's like, let me step in. It's like, I never thought of myself that way, right? I thought of myself do, but now it's like, hey, I can be kind of a mentor. And what an interesting concept, on the work site.
You know, eh, you talk about Carol Dweck's, book was a transformational book for me in a lot of ways, even as a father, because it really allowed me to appreciate my children for their incremental growth instead of the score, instead of the grade. And it helped me so why then, if I gain this, why can't I then help give them it? Maybe they won't read the book, but you know what? I can give them the concepts of what we're talking about and introduce that to them because the reality of it is it to me, it's one of the best ways to also keep yourself emotionally stable, because when you, as clearly articulated, when it comes to comparing yourself, that brings you down a rabbit hole of self-doubt, um, y lack of confidence, anger, feeling like you've been that this you didn't get the right end of the stick, that fit those fixed things that, I didn't, why am I not that big? Why am I too heavy? Why am I too short? Why am I this color? What is the whatever? What's my sexuality? Okay, those are fixed things, but look at this massive amount of growth mindset that you can have, and incrementally, you can get a win because your daughter studied as hard as she could. She gave it every effort. It's the win before she takes the test. So Carol DeWick's, that to me was something that really helped me in an industry that says, do not think like that. This is the way we do it. Just keep doing it that way. And it's not true. It's $1 trillion business. This is critical. We're not building buildings like we did 100 years ago. So that even fallacy in our mind to believe that this is just the way it is, it's just not true. Progressive businesses in my industry and all industries, they either move forward or they die.
Hmm. A couple of things come to mind, and it's like, and I that sense of impermanence, right? So interesting. This is the beauty of mindfulness in real time, is you just expressed in that last paragraph, so to speak. So the concept that underscores a lot of Buddhist principles. All right, we're not making this about spirituality, but
Right.
there's a lot of truth here. It's like everything changes. Everything from moment to moment to moment is changing. So our ability to release our hold on the past, or our clinging to conceptions of what's about to come, just say the only thing that we actually can experience is what's happening right now. And I think you said that in wonderful words. I also want to circle back
Sure.
because you said something earlier on that to me is fundamental about allowing people to embrace a concept when it's coming, it may be something new to them, and maybe something that's a little foreign from their normal sort of conception of life. You talked about vulnerability in sharing. It's like, if I'm giving an example of something and it's a personal example, right? And I'm willing to share sort of my imperfections, but sort of how this plays into my life, all of a sudden it's a lot more acceptable. It's like,
Right.
the barriers, the resistance comes down. And
Right.
what I've seen is that when this concept of sort of mindfulness in the workplace is introduced, if it tries to come from sort of the roots up, it's really hard, because there's a sense of like, well, senior management doesn't believe this, so but you've turned the tables on that, and I think that's really important, and it seems to have had a major impact for you.
It has, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I when I speak to people, it's an idea that you believe is going to be impactful to your business. It must start at the top. It does not work the other way, in my belief. And then you have to be courageous. You have to be consistent. You have to 100% be, but if you're 99, they're going to see that 1%. If you choose profit over your belief, if you take profit over safety in our industry, if you even give an inch, you are sending a wrong message. So for me, it was critical that I first had to say, I'm going to believe in this, because there's going to be doubters. Yeah, everyone, you talked about Buddhists and monks. Everyone thinks we're going to sit around and do seances all day. And that's just because they're afraid of this mindfulness is kind of scary. Look, there is a lot of and fear, power and fear in going into your own mind and trying to, because it could be a scary place if it's not assembled properly. I love the movie Inside and Out. It's one of the most important movies that I wish every school could teach children, because as a teenager, nothing would make me happier to understand there's nothing wrong with me. There's just all these little things in my head, and they're working with each other. And sometimes one goes too far and then they got to get it back. So introducing that is so powerful if it comes from the top. So what you said is, if you expect to intellectually teach it, but not practice it, that just doesn't really work. People don't buy that because they think you're selling them something. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to give you something. I'm giving it to you. Well, you're going to benefit. We both can benefit. Why can't we work in business, for-profit businesses, and say, if we can make it for both of us, it's better. I don't win by you losing. It's not sustainable to me. It doesn't feel good to me as a human being. I don't like that. I'm a sports person. I had to grow out of some of that. But some of the best experiences I had in sports was losing or winning and taking the person or talking to the person and saying, great match. I learned a lot. I lost. I don't like it. But you know what? I gained a lot. So I didn't really lose. So I think that was a really important part of it. Goes to you what you said. If you can't change your mind, if you're not mindful, if you're not trying to practice slowing yourself down, you're missing a lot of the brain to me. And we can talk about AI all day, and AI is going to be amazing. The human brain is, to me, 10,000 times more powerful because it knows how to adapt, adjust, but it also has emotions in there. AI doesn't have emotions, and emotions can be dangerous, just like AI can be dangerous, or emotions can be incredible. So I like to think of the fact that the human mind, while it's a powerful tool, and whoever gave us, whoever your beliefs are, we all have it. So what are we going to do with it?
Mm. Yeah. What are we going to do with it? And I think so. Again, circling back, you mentioned it, the concept of when people think about mindfulness and it may be their first introduction, their concept is, there's incense flowing and a bunch of people sitting, on a cushion in the lotus position, which, by the way, I can't do.
Me
Right.
either.
Right. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Mindfulness shows up in so many different ways. And basically what we're trying to get at is just that slowing down, being able to kind of recognize what's happening in our brain, knowing the object here isn't not to think, because you're not thinking, you're probably dead. So sorry for that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to kind of slow things down so that we can start to notice and be aware of what are the thoughts and the emotions that are showing up and saying, okay, I get this. Yeah, actually, this is where I want to be right now. I'm feeling scared, and there's a reason for me feeling scared because, you know, I see, I'm in a situation where the weather's turned. I'm on a roof or
Right.
something, and
Sure.
so now I need to take more time and slow down. So okay, I'm not rushing through this job, right? But that sense of mindfulness is really being present in the moment, and then all the things that are arising, thinking, well, I'm going to check them out. I'm going to observe them without kind of being so judgmental, because the judgment's coming from another place. That's my ego. That's whatever. That's the fixed mindset, right? It's like, you can't do that, whatever, that's bad. It's like, well, slow down. And let me just see what's happening. It's like, huh. I use this example. And he said,
Uh-huh.
it's like, and this goes sort of into that, the movie, um, that you were talking about, that
Oh,
wonderful,
inside.
yeah. So it's like going into the attic, right?
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but there's a lot of crap in my attic. And I'm not sure I always, well, you know what? From time to time, you got to open the door, go up and say, oh, we got to do some work here, right? The insulation isn't what it should be. Or, you know, we got some critters up here, right? It's scary, but from time to time we have to go there. And that's sort of an analogy of a mindful moment, which is like, okay, I I'm afraid to see what's up there, but from time to time I gotta check it out.
Well, Clayton, I think by you putting so one of the things that I think we do from a teaching standpoint, yeah, is try to put it in a visual. That's why, you say in an addict, everyone knows what an addict is. Everyone knows what is up there. And if you can visualize and you can put that in, that's why that animated movie allowed it to be something that is tangible. And I think, and when you put it in the storytelling or you put it in a visual to any human being who can understand that, I don't care if it's an addict or it's something else, a shed or whatever you want to call it, you go, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. This doesn't have to be such a high level academia. This just has to be common sense. There's a lot of academia that actually really talks about that there's science. One of the book by Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow, which for me was another deeply transformational book because it allowed me to understand that I am going to think fast about something. I don't, that my experiences are who I am. I can't not have that. Let it come in and then slow down the brain and then make a decision. And if we all do that, if someone's standing in front of me who happens to be a construction worker, he's 6'5", he's physically this intimidating. My first thought is he can lift the building. He's powerful. He can beat me up. He's strong. He's whatever. But if I keep listening, I may find this gentle giant who has got a great heart, who I just have to figure that. But that's my responsibility. That's on me. And if we can teach that, I think what you talked about, that addict, about going up sometimes and just cleaning out the only way to do that is mindfulness. And some of the ways you do mindfulness is just walking around. It doesn't have to be with incense. And, I like people who are faith, because if you're going to mindfulness in your faith, God bless you, just don't judge anybody. Go in and have mindfulness. Because that's the beauty about being mindful of yourself is you're not there to judge. You're there to help yourself. So if I go into a synagogue or a church or a mosque or whatever I do, I'm going to really help myself. And to me, that's your strategy of having a better humanity. That's your strategy. And whatever that is, you like to listen to music, take walks, but in that time, you're literally opening your mind to kind of clean out the attic, using your words.
Yeah. And that sense of the myriad ways that we can be in the moment, be mindful. It doesn't necessarily, I meditate every day. And sometimes it's in the morning for half an hour and I do sit on a cushion. Sometimes it's 5 minutes right before I go to sleep, but I do it every day. That's my commitment. But other times it could be walking the dog. And here's the thing,
Yes.
right? Here's the differential. So there are times when I walk the dog, when I've got my AirPod on and I'm listening to an audio book or a podcast. And I was
Right.
like, that's great. But I need to know in that moment, I'm doing several different things. I'm walking the dog and I'm listening. Nothing inherently wrong with that. But how about those times when I'm just walking the dog, when I'm like watching him sniff, when I'm like, this is his walk and I'm just going to check him out. I'm not going to yank him. He's taking his time, whatever. This is, wow, this is interesting. What's going through this dog's mind? And it's like, okay, that's pulling me into that moment. I'm nowhere else, right? So knowing that, and getting back to that thought about Daniel Kahneman, that book was inspirational for me as well. In that sense of like the fast and slow, the fast brain, like that's 95% of the decisions
Mhm.
that are made during the day are made by that automatic brain just going, do, 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 do. And as you mentioned, based on all the information we've had in the past, our past experiences, the brain wants to save time. It's like, I got bigger things, bigger fish
Right.
to fry. So this is what we're going to do based on what I've seen in the past. Like system 2 is that rational brain. And it's like, ooh, wait a minute. So recognizing, as you said, what system's in play here? I need to be in system 2 right now to make sure that I'm making the decision that ties back to my intentions. And I kind of felt that early on in our conversations, like you need to set the intention. This is why I'm doing this, right? And
Yes.
if we slow down, say I'm going up into my attic because I kind of want to do inventory. Okay. Then when I'm up there, let's not allow the emotions of like, "Ooh, this is messy. You're a bad person."
Yes.
Let's, I'm just checking it out, right?
Okay, Clayton, I think one of the things you said earlier as it relates to walking the dog and listening to music, I want to be clear on something. And I want your audience to try it. If- Try to, for 30 seconds, just concentrate on your breath. Try to have nothing. Every addict, it needs a clean out. So and then make it a minute, make it 5 minutes, and I used to have, and I still do. I had a little thing on where it would measure my brain wavelengths. When I would go off. And it was trying to keep me to be. And the reason I would do that is so I can flush the pipes. Flush. I need to flush a lot. So just think about breath. Think about breath. Think about breath. Think about the dog. You're right. Let me just stare at this tree and just look at the green leaf and see if I can just stare at the green leaf and all the other minutia that is shooting in. Things are flying into it, but I'm blocking them for now so I can have this time to be mindful. And then I can now, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be, I can't work. You can't run for 12, you can't be Forrest Gump and run for, a year. It's
Run,
just,
Forrest.
yes, really, exactly. It's just not, that's why it's a fantasy. We all need to have that time and mindfulness and having that time, as you said, to just stare at the dog. Like, don't pretend that just listen to music is it. But if you listen to music and you want to hear the guitar string, so think for the guitar string only. You're going to find that everything else just flushes out and you're just focused and it just gives you that mindfulness. Look, we're not monks. There's a lot of great monks who can do it, but this is about everyday people. The gifts that you're talking about, Clayton, the gifts that you're given is for every socioeconomic class, every intelligence, every ethnicity, it's universal, it's forever. And humanity as a strategy is for everyone on earth. If I took this business to Bangladesh, you can do the same thing because the thing that you do can change, but humanity isn't going to change. It's been this way, and it's how do you come up with a strategy to help that culture or whatever that may be?
So bless you for weaving that back, that sense of, you know, if you can just follow your breath for 30 seconds, if you can just stare at that tree. And by the way, I've got a tree right outside my window. And I was watching a woodpecker earlier, and
Mhm.
literally for probably 2 minutes, I just watched that woodpecker. Now, one would wonder, say, okay, you're kind of lost, your mind wandering. Actually, my mind wasn't wandering. I was totally focused on that. So what does that do? This is the beauty of this conversation, I believe.
Right.
In reality, what is that following the breath for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, listening, if you're listening to music, follow that bass line, just like follow something in that song that you've never heard before, a different harmony, whatever, right? What is that doing? Well, it's building a muscle,
Mm.
and it's building that awareness muscle that then becomes available to you and accessible to you when you most need it. When
Yes.
you're in the midst of a stupid argument with your spouse, and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, what? I'm not angry with my spouse. I'm angry because something else happened today that I haven't gotten rid of. So, I'm angry because I was on hold for 30 minutes, with a help desk, and I thought that was wasted time. And now that is carried over. If I can, all of a sudden the awareness goes, stop, slow down. Wait a minute. You just said something
Right.
that, and you catch yourself and you go, let me apologize. I'm really sorry. Right. Toothpaste out
Yes.
of the tube. But let me acknowledge this. As you said early on, being vulnerable, I effed up. I'm really sorry. Let me take that back. So personal relationship, in the workplace, you screwed up and something's happened and you may have put your fellow employee in a little danger. And you say, hey, I want to own that. I wasn't there. Let me acknowledge that my mind wandered at a bad time. So I'm here for you. Right. And being able to say, that's why I'm meditating, or that's why I'm doing whatever it is that's building my mindfulness, because it's strengthening that muscle. So when it's needed, it's available.
You know, you brought up an image in my mind because I want to make sure people who are listening are not just like, ah, this is this high ideas. Well, let's take a power lifter. A power lifter, if you watch them, has to breathe and be totally focused because, as you said, the power is not just in the muscle in their legs and in their arms. It's in their brain. They're breathing. They're trying to get themselves psyched for this, and they're trying to channel all that. And like you said, the muscle in the brain has to be able to have been there, has to been able to been through this, has to be able to have space. If they're thinking about, I got into a fender bender on my way into this, there is no doubt that they will not get their stroke, their high. Everyone thinks adrenaline is the thing. No, adrenaline can give you a short burst of benefit. Mindfulness can give you the long benefit, and it can be repeatable, and it doesn't drain you. Like adrenaline gets you to be drained. Mindfulness actually fills your cup. So I think the imagery, especially for me, is when I speak to people is, yeah, I'm in construction business, but we can talk to academia and say, we understand what you're in. These buildings are built by people who are in high stress. You opened up this whole thing. We have 3 times the amount of, addiction or suicide. This is a highly stressful business. So if I want my workforce to be better, to be healthier, to be happier, how does that not benefit me? Like it's actually a dumb question. So I actually can get a little bit like, what do you mean I shouldn't be doing it? This is what I should be doing. This is my job. And oh, by the way, it's my job and I benefit and my family benefits and your family benefits. And and that, to me, is why humanity as a strategy is a and the reason I put strategy in there is because it doesn't happen. You just can't wake up and think something is going to happen. If you're going to be that weightlifter, if you're going to, power lifter, and you're going to lift the most weight you can, you have to gradually build yourself up, and you have to practice, and you have to have strategy. And why does humanity have to be something that you think is innate? There is innate goodness that starts, I believe, now this is just my opinion. When you were born, you're pure. Societal pressures and societal life and your upbringing is going to change it. How do we get back to keep finding ways to get back to that purity? Mindfulness is the only way we can at least attempt. We'll never get back there because it's not going to happen. But the journey there is going to be where you're going to get better.
Mm, mm. That that sense of kind of journeying back to yourself. What a beautiful image that is, and and to me, devoutly to be wished. That so one of the things we talk about in is the practice of kind of being mindful on a daily basis is creating space, and used that term before, creating that space to notice, to observe, to respond rather than react, right? And That's so important because, again, as Danny Kahneman said, system one wants to react, up, 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 up. And that's, yep, that will potentially keep you from stepping into traffic, but it also will potentially have you sending off an email in response to something that could be damaging to your career or
Been
relationships.
there.
Been done that, right? Or social media, there's a post and someone said something that I don't like, and I'm like, oh my God, how did I?
What?
Okay, so taking that space, right, and really observing, and also having the intention to say, well, what is important to me? What's my personal currency?
Mm,
Where do I want to set my North Star? Right. And
right.
again, we can think of that in the larger sense, in sort of life way, life altering ways, or even moment to moment. What's important in this moment? But to know that, I have to have the intention that that's what I'm looking for. Right.
Right.
And that's the guidance that I'm searching for. And I need to, and I think you said this beautifully, there's a lot of noise since we come out of the womb, and then there's a purity about us. And then over time, we're just bombarded by stimulus from family, from society, right? And that has a huge influence on us. But how much of that do we embrace, and do we want to have woven into our personal fabric? And how much of it is like, okay, I get it. It was kind of society's done this, but I'm my own person. I'm making my own decisions. And I need to then quiet the noise,
Mhm.
right? And then be able to
Yes.
hear, that's what my heart is saying. And that's, again, our practice of quieting the noise allows us then to hear. Sometimes it takes a while to differentiate even that. But if we're intentional about it and we're quieting it, that wisdom will tend to be more available to us. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's who I am. And I hear that was a motivation for you personally and professionally. And you've seen the ROI
Mhm.
demonstrated. And I think that's a huge thing for businesses to get, is that it's not just, we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about psychological safety. These are important terms, but there's a monetary impact. And you've seen that, right?
I always laugh when people, I say, look, you think I'm just doing this? I'm an entrepreneur and a business person. I'm a for-profit business to make money. That's part of keeping a business open. A good business should be able to make money. Okay, so that's a fact. So I'm not going to do something. There's charity and there's things that I like to do for myself that are very, very, very personal. Not this. This is not just personal. The return on investment, the growth of this company from when we adopted this to now, we hold people accountable. We have expectations. So I don't want to act like this is like we're all sitting around just breathing and no, this is what this is it's that other thing. So that return on investment is we have more people who want to work here. We have more people who want to stay here. We have people who are happy, who are innovative, who are incredible. The success of this company isn't about what I do, it's about what they do. Our growth has been about the growth because the people who are here are innovative, and that because if they get that space, and you said it earlier, that space, they become a powerful, we all push that ball forward. We all keep doing it. So the return on investment, this is not a flavor of the month. This is a commitment forever. This is not something that we are going to stop. We're going to get better at it. We're going to teach it more. We're going to introduce ourselves to more people so we can introduce them to a different mindset of how you can operate a for-profit in our business construction. And I don't care what you're in. I don't care if you're in junkyard. It doesn't matter. It's garbage collecting. You still have people until it's all robots. Then we're not on this earth. But it's not going to be Because as Daniel Kahneman, I mean, I pronounced the name probably wrong. System one, AI will take a lot of system one. System two, because the hippocampus isn't filled with stuff that you have to innovate yourself. So all AI does is scroll what we already created and makes it faster. So so I want to this staff be all creative of how to be better. And if they're not in the right mindset, they're not doing it. If they're unhappy being here, if their humanity isn't valued, if their experience of diversity of who they are isn't explored and embraced, you're not going to get there. And it's a journey, and we're not there. So I want to be clear here. We're on a journey. We're not perfect. We make a million mistakes. But we're human, and we're just trying to build it a little bit better, and we're going to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, our whole goal is to create a place where we're strategically trying to help the humans that help us get here. No one gets to success by themselves. We all need a community of individuals to support us. I'm not successful if I wasn't born to the parents I was born to, in the country I was born to, as a male. I mean, there's so many things that could have been different. So it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that I don't deserve things. It just means I just have to work with what I. And it goes back to what we talked about Carol Dweck. I got this fixed opportunity. What am I going to do with it with my growth mindset? Because if I expect entitlement, if I expect nothing to me is more, not nothing. The most detrimental thing to the mind is entitlement. It just fixes you. And then you're stuck. You have this giant anchor. And the greatest successes in the world forever have always been those forward thinkers, the people who overcame these amazing things. How did Gandhi get out of that? How did all those things, how did Hitler get defeated? It was the mind of people that overcame that. And then the greatness that has been created by the human mind is, how do we keep finding it? It's not just everyone's a genius. There's geniuses. I call it the Einstein rule. If you're looking to have Einstein, everybody be Einstein, because no Einstein here. But you know what? I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to keep learning. That's my Einstein. I'm going to keep trying to learn. I'm going to learn from Clayton. I'm going to learn from this person. I'm going to gather some sort of data point that's going to help me. But if my mind is closed, I don't learn from Clayton because I'm not open. I got to listen. Ears, they're an important part. As a person who talks a lot, one of the things that I struggle with that I got to keep doing is listening. Mindfulness allows you to listen, and it's so important. And I read books on it. I just have to practice it. I'm passionate, so sometimes I let that get too far ahead of me. So I just got to sometimes, that's why I meditate, to slow myself down so I can listen better.
Well, that's huge, and I share that. I'll own that. So a couple things, that sense of, imperfection. I think about the quote that's attributed to Thomas Edison. He was talking about, like, you failed, 10,000 times to make a better light bulb. And he said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 different ways that don't work. Right. So it's a different way of looking at it. And I so applaud how you've tied this in the ROI of why this sense of bringing mindfulness into the workplace makes financial sense in so many ways. And thinking about, well, okay, people want to work here. They want to stay here. Okay, so let's put this in practical terms. That means I have less turnover. I spend less money having to recruit people. It's a safer environment physically because people are paying attention in the moment. So I have, less expense with injuries. Exactly. And all these different ways to be able to tie it back to, look, it makes sense intellectually, but also makes sense in reality, and also gets back to it doesn't work if it's not living through you. If people don't, if people don't take you seriously, it's like, oh yeah, it's all, it's all words. No, I'm watching Ed do this on a daily basis. I'm watching Ed admit when he's like, you know what? I wasn't listening as carefully as I should have been. I was kind of listening. I had my response coming up. By the way, that happens to me. It's like, stop, listen to the full statement, right? And it's like, okay, slow down, slow down. What's next, right? So that to me, those are such practical elements of why this is important, why we do the work, why we try to stay the course. And when we stray, when we make mistakes, I got it. And be kind to ourselves. It's like, yeah, you know what? I've never met a perfect person, and I'm certainly not one. So let me be a little gracious, and I'm going to put the oxygen mask on.
Yes. Well, that's why I think, Clayton, it's important even for me to speak with you, because the more we embrace the diversity of industry, diversity of thought, the more we embrace that and try to mix that up. The American experiment was great because we mixed up everything. We didn't try to keep it just one. That's what made this place the powerful ROI, the powerful business unit. And of course, there's mistakes and there's errors and there's a lot of things that are wrong. But let's remember that our humanity as people provided such a tremendous ROI to that experiment. Like the return on investment is unbelievable. So just translate it into your business. So if you're a business person out there and you go, how do I keep growing and getting to the next level? There's widgets and things that you have to do that are operational to your business. You have to be concentrating on that. I'm not here to tell you that you just do the humanity part and everything's going to work out. No, I'm saying you should I can do both. I can do both. And speaking to Clayton and getting into diverse conversations with different people, don't also stay in your own bubble. So that's why I go back to your story about before college. If you get on the factory floor, you're going to be better because you're going to learn a lot more. And if you're on the factory floor, try to have a conversations with someone who's not on the factory floor and embrace them and learn from them because you'll be better. And I think that, again, if you have a strategy for that you say, I'm on the factory floor, but I'd like to meet 3 people at EDA that aren't on the factory floor. Let me understand their experience. And that your humanity will make you, as a strategy, it'll help you earn more, help you elevate yourself to where you are, and it'll just make you happier. And at the end of the day, instead of me being upset that those people who are in the office aren't on the factory floor, let me understand them. And let me see if in this country, see if I can aspire, if I want that, or do I not want that? I love being on the factory floor. I love what I do. I love my teammates here. I love that. It's great. I get these great relationships. I have a great balance of life, and I'm proud of that. And I'm good. Wow, what a gift if you can say I'm good. Another book, and we're talking. I loved Jack Bogle's Enough. Enough helped me so much because at one point we all have an enough. And when you talk about mindfulness, the beauty about mindfulness is you can never have enough. But what he was talking about was your aspirations of where you want to be should not always, because it goes to that fixed mindset again. What are you really there for? If it's just money, you're not going to be happy, is what Jack Bogle was saying. You know what? I'm going to take it from a billionaire who built one of the most successful businesses. If even he said, I can't sacrifice myself for something that is not tangible, but you know what is tangible? People people leave this earth and they remember the people for who they were and how they impacted other people. They do not leave this earth and say they had all these things. That's how we remember people. That's how we remember our parents, our grandparents, our loved ones, our friends. We remember them for how you felt being with them. That is a powerful, powerful thing to me because we only get one life and what is your legacy and what's it going to be? And mindfulness allows you to be present because I'm 57. It feels like yesterday that I was 7. So why not just make every day matter? And there's going to be life things that come up, as you know. I could get in a car accident. What could happen? Some illnesses. And what you said is that mindfulness gives you the muscles to handle the stripes of life. And that's okay. That's good. That's like if you're working out, you're running, well, your brain's the same muscle. Just try to do the same thing up there so you can be ready. So when, the lion comes at you, you got the strength. Well, if the lion comes at you in the mental part, you trained your brain on how to manage it. It's a good thing. You're doing good work because I love what you talk about because it transcends to every single business in the entire world. There's not one thing, not one business says, I don't need that. If there's humans in there, they need it. If there's no humans, no, you don't need it. But that's impossible because the human's the one who told the robots to do something. So that's not even true. So I like what you're doing, Clayton. So keep it up because it's really, I think, an important thing to talk, especially in today's day and age. I believe there's too much aggressiveness. There's too much machismo. There's too much, we need to be talking about each other like we love each other. We care for each other, that we want our fellow human being to be happy and successful. And I think that is and it's not like kumbaya. It's where it's still in a competition, but we just have to know of life. You just can't do it by stepping on somebody. And mindfulness allows you to, if you accidentally step on somebody, you step on somebody, you reach down, have empathy, not sympathy. Put your hand down and pick them up because you'll be mindful of it. Just like saying hi to someone or opening the door for someone, be mindful. That's all you're doing. What our parents taught us, our grandparents taught us, good manners is just a mindfulness of caring about your fellow human. Amen to that. Good.
Amen.
Then we're on to something.
I so appreciate that. Ed, this has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation for me. I'm so grateful for you spending this time with us, sharing your wisdom. I am a wiser person for this time we spent together, and I look forward to staying in contact with you. Best of luck going forward with EDA, all the good work you're doing there, not only for the people who work directly for you, but the people you're serving who learn from that ripple effect. They see what's happening, the good stuff that's happening at EDA and in your life, and you go, I like more of that. So continue to be that beacon. I really think that's an important thing.
Well, I enjoyed it too, and thank you for what you do because I think this is what allows us all to be just a little bit better.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. I want to give a big shout out to John Gehring of Story Trust Media for his expert editing and wonderful production guidance. I also am deeply grateful for the ongoing support I receive from Meditation for Leadership and their sponsorship. So that's all for now. Until next time, this is Clayton Platt saying, watch for those moments of magic when mindfulness shows up in real time in your life.